What is going on? This is the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. I'm your host, Brad. We got Clean Hits Kenny here. Trent's making his way back from Salt Lake City. I hope a bunch of people got to say hi to him at the Ducks game where the Utah Hockey Club won 3-2 and gets them one step closer to a playoff spot. And that is exactly what we are going to be talking about all episode is kind of this wild card race. We're going to kind of break down the pros and cons of all the teams we're trying to get caught up to. And then, just talk about a little bit of the news and notes from over the past week. But Kenny, how are you doing? So you got the Gunther shirt on?
Yeah, got the Gunther shirt on, Club Co. I'm good. It's been exciting to watch. It's I never would have thought. I know we touched on it last podcast, but it was looking pretty dark there for a little bit. But now we are just 2 points out of a wild card spot, and it hasn't felt more real. And there's been some interesting roster decisions that have been made in alignment with that, and so we'll get into that a little bit. But couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, agreed. And right before we do jump into that, I do need to give a shout out to our partners at Overtime Cards and Collectibles. If you have not heard, this is becoming the hub for the Utah Hockey Club community. They got tons of different collectibles there, everything from signed player jerseys to something they're calling the Utah Hockey Club treasure chest, which has three different pieces of memorabilia in it. So you can go check that out at their shop. They're open every day of the week, and they are located at 10673 South State Street in Sandy, Utah, which is going to be right next to that new practice facility for the team. So During the off season, when you're going over there to catch practices, you can just kind of stumble on over to Overtime afterwards and kind of hang out with that Utah Hockey Club community. They have a Mikhail Sergachev signing next Friday. Unfortunately, it is sold out, but hopefully you already got your tickets, and that is exactly why you're going to be wanting to follow Overtime Cards and Collectibles on Twitter. That is Overtime Cards UT on Twitter. Make sure you are kind of bookmarking that website too, because they post all their upcoming events, and they may have some more before the end of the season. And in fact, Clean Hits Brad will be out there for that Mikhail Sergachev signing next Friday. So hope to see you there. They are also going to be carrying some of the new Elite Sergachev shirts that we just kind of released this week. I guess that was last week already. Time is flying by. Got that right up on the screen. You can get your own at shop.cleanhitshockey.com. Or you can go over to Overtime Cards and Collectibles. They should be getting some shirts in next week, so you can kind of try it on, see how everything fits, and see what that design looks like in person. So you will have the proper fit for that Sergachev signing, and I hope to see you all there. And I will be at that Tampa Bay game on 3/22, where Sergachev is going to be playing against the team he won 2 Stanley Cups with. So again, get over to Overtime Cards and Collectibles. Check out those Utah Hockey Club treasure chests. Get a couple packs of cards. Those have been really fun to crack. And they finally have the new upper deck with the Utah players in Utah uniforms before they were still in kind of the Coyotes gear. So make sure you go over there to start collecting those as well. And again, hopefully get to see you next Friday, live and in person at Overtime. And then more exciting news, me and Kenny are coming out for the last home game of the season against Nashville. That is April 10th. So we will be doing some sort of meetup either before or after or both for that. So keep those eyes peeled so we can kind of let you know what we'll be doing. That is going to be a blast.
Yeah, I was going to say, they probably won't have to look too hard to find us. We're going to be making a scene. So it's going to be a great time. We can't wait to party with y'all. I was super, super jealous of Trent's trip and seeing all the people he got to meet up with. And I just can't wait to do the same. It's going to be an awesome time. So, and Trent got to see his Ducks, his favorite team, get destroyed. So yeah, it was awesome. And I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we can't wait. And if you want to get more involved with kind of the Utah Hockey Club community or the Clean Hits community, you can get into our Discord. That is discord.cleanhitshockey.com, or you can find all of our written content at cleanhitshockey.com. Obviously, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Give us a follow, give us a like. All that helps us grow this show and that Utah Hockey Club community. So again, really cool things, really exciting things going on. So get involved. I don't know what you're waiting for if you are not already doing so. And again, get yourself some of our awesome swag, like those Club Mammoth shirts, the Circus Chef shirts, the Dylan Gunther shirt that Kenny and Dylan Gunther himself are sporting. All that
That's crazy.
At shop.cleanhitshockey.com. All right. Well, let's get into it. Yeah. Let's do a little bit of kind of the cleanup. It's been a little bit of we had a big day last week with the trade deadline. You could check out our latest episode, which was all about speculation on the trade deadline. And unfortunately, none of it really came true. But one big move was made by the team. It involved removing a player who does not currently play in the NHL, a current Hall of Famer. Shea Weber was traded for a 5th-round pick to the Chicago Blackhawks, along with Aku Radi and Victor Soderstrom, 2 of the Utah Hockey Club's kind of prospects that are getting a little bit older. Again, that was moved along with Shea Weber's cap space, which was $7.857 million to the Chicago Blackhawks. This is going to help them kind of reach that salary cap floor. But more importantly, we just found $7.87 million in cap space. And to me, this is like the GMBA Bill Armstrong bat signal going out to the rest of the league saying, we want to make some moves this offseason.
Right. I mean, that cap space that we just cleared up, just to put it in perspective, that's more money than Dylan Gunther makes.
Wow.
Per year, so you could use that. And with the cap increasing, and we already had a decent amount of cap space, we could be, and we hinted at it, the show right before the trade deadline. We said, if it's going to be quiet, which we kind of expected, we had a weird feeling that something might happen, and it did. It wasn't earth shattering, but it's big news. That if it was going to be a quiet deadline, prepare for a massive summer. And I think this is just a precursor to that. And it gives you a glimpse of what Bill Armstrong is looking to do. It's so hard to see this team. Hard is probably not the best term here, but it's so intriguing to see this team that he's built get this close and be in the race this late. If we just miss, that Bill Armstrong is going to be motivated to add to the team. If we make it, it's probably going to be a tough 1st-round matchup, and we might get bounced out early. That he's going to have a taste of the playoffs and he's going to want to add to this team. So I was almost rooting for us not to do anything at the deadline, because I am so excited to see what can happen in this summer.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, this was kind of the big move to make an even bigger move this offseason. And, it said a lot with all the extensions that happened last week. I mean, that was kind of the big trade deadline move too, was locking up all these guys saying, hey, we're going to make a push for the playoffs with this team. We are keeping all of our unrestricted free agents, or the big names at least, and making that push. Again, I'm sure BA was calling people, but maybe no deals were to be made that felt right for him at the time. In a lot of ways, getting the healthy blue line has kind of been like an addition too. I mean, we've only had a couple weeks of having the full defensive core together, with Jersey coming back from injury, with Marino coming back from injury in like late January. So
yeah,
they kind of made additions already. So yeah, I'm glad there wasn't too much tinkering, because then you're kind of maybe messing with chemistry going into this race, and definitely didn't go out and get players just to get players, which sometimes is a good sign. If you saw our interview with play-by-play announcer Matt McConnell earlier this summer in the offseason, he even mentioned when we asked him about the rebuild that he felt that BA is steadfast in rebuilding. It is not over. And he kind of saw us as a team that's just going to kind of let it be, see how things go. And that's exactly what we saw. So in a lot of ways, the lack of deadline moves isn't surprising. But again, moving $7.8 million in cap space definitely hints to a big summer. So make sure you're following us because we will be reporting and covering all of those major moves. I have a feeling we are going to see some humongous fireworks. And we kind of mentioned it in our last episode. It's kind of clear what spots we will be looking to improve because the blue line's all locked up. We have our new starter goaltender locked up for a while. It's really going to be in the forward group.
Yep, and it's probably going to be a top 6 player.
Yep.
And I mean, with this much money and the names that are out there, I know Ranton is now off the board, but you know, Marner is still unsigned.
Yes.
And that could be a name to watch. I mean, if you think about it, like imagine having 2 80 to 90 point players in your top 6.
Yeah,
with Clayton Keller and Mitch Marner. So won't dive too much into that, but there are some intriguing names, and there's always somebody out there that there's no rumors around that's a big name that gets moved. And I think we've seen it. Bill Armstrong would prefer to trade. He's even said it. You know, championship teams are built through trades, and we could see someone out of left field that's maybe unhappy with their situation, and we either offer sheet them, which we have the means to do, or swing a big trade. So I can't wait for those shows. You guys know us; we're kind of wacky. We love to speculate. Yep. We're gonna have a good time with it, but that'll be a conversation for a little bit after the season there.
Yeah, and if you want to get in on that conversation, you can do so now. Jump into that Discord we have going. We have a whole trade section where we come up with these wacky ideas and discuss them all day long. And you can find our Discord at discord.cleanhitshockey.com. All right, well, let's talk about this wild card race. That was a big win against the Ducks. The Ducks have been playing a much better as of late too. So that felt good to win against them in a point in the season where it really mattered. Of course, they lost to Toronto in overtime, but secured 1 point because of it. They also lost to Chicago in overtime, got another point there. So out of the last couple, I think it's the last 4 games now, they've gotten a point in each of them. So moving in the right direction, like you mentioned, 2 spots out from a wild card spot that is currently held by the Calgary Flames, who have 71 points, 64 games played. The Utah Hockey Club are at 65 games played with 69 points. What we're going to do is kind of break down all those teams that are ahead of Utah or just right in the thick of it. Again, that's going to be the Flames, the Vancouver Canucks, who are right ahead of Utah with 71 points and the same amount of games played, and the St. Louis Blues, who are tied with the Utah Hockey Club with 69 points in 66 games played. So the Blues have played 1 more game than the Utah Hockey Club. The Calgary Flames have played 1 less, and the Vancouver Canucks have played the exact same amount. The good news here is there are 2 4-point games here on the calendar. The Utah Hockey Club will be playing the Vancouver Canucks on this road trip. They are playing the Seattle Kraken tonight. And I believe they play on Sunday against the Vancouver Canucks. Yeah.
Big game.
And they play big game. And the very, very last game of the season is against the St. Louis Blues.
Also a big game.
Wouldn't that be something if they're both the ones fighting for that last spot?
Yeah. 2 major 4-point swings coming up. So there's some games that you wish that they would have pulled 2 points out of. Like I'm looking at the Chicago game, but this Sunday is quite arguably the most important game that we've had thus far. Like Brad mentioned, we played the same amount of games. We're 2 points behind them. That would be again a 4-point swing. So there's some things I'm looking at with these teams, and I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to jump right into it, Brad.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. So I'm looking at the standings here, and two things that I notice about the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames, who are the two teams ahead of us right now. Vancouver has a -20 goal differential.
Wow.
And Calgary has a -19 goal differential.
Wow.
Utah is at -8. St. Louis is at -9. So that's something to keep an eye on. Also, thanks to our friends over at powerrankingsguru.com, I'm looking at the remaining strength of schedule for each team. So the easiest schedule out of the teams that we're talking about here, that belongs to the Blues. In fact, they have the 30th out of 32. So they're number 30 in 32. So they have a pretty easy schedule going the remainder of the way. Utah is next. We're ranked 17th. And this is in reverse order, right? So number 1 is the hardest. Number 32 is the easiest. And then right above us at 14, Calgary Flames. And then all the way up at 9 is the Vancouver Canucks. So the Vancouver Canucks have the significantly harder schedule out of the group, followed closely by the Calgary and then Utah. So that's, again, it's something to keep an eye on. The teams ahead of us have more difficult matchups according to the numbers than we do, but St. Louis seems to have a pretty easy ride the rest of the way according to the numbers. So you never know. It could come down to that final game where Utah and St. Louis are battling it out to see winner takes all.
Yep, agreed. Well, let's start by talking about the St. Louis Blues and kind of the pros and cons of how that team is currently constructed and kind of that schedule and their chances of making the playoffs. So kind of a team in the midst of a retool. And it seems like they're retooling around Rob Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, and some of these younger guys they've drafted recently, like Jake Neighbors. And then they have some prospects that are still in the pipeline who will be kind of slowly knocking on the door in these next couple seasons. But they've done a lot of work to do this on the fly. Now, I would say that is kind of the biggest pro right now. The acquisition of Dylan Holloway and Broberg from the Edmonton Oilers have made a significant impact already. Those were 2 first-round players from the 2019 draft for Broberg, or 18, and then the 2020 for Dylan Holloway.
Yeah, I think they were both back-to-back drafts.
Yep. So this was a team who was kind of a playoff contender year over year, and they got to add some first-round picks kind of out of the blue. And those guys have made impacts already. I would say when you're looking up and down at this top 6, this top 9 of the Blues, it's a very big playoff type team. The con that comes to my mind right away, though, is the fact that they lost Colton Parayko, who is their top defenseman and will not return for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side, though, is this blue line is filled with veterans. It's got Cam Fowler, who they acquired earlier this season, Nick Leddy, Justin Falk, Ryan Suter of all players.
Yeah.
So they do have some good pieces on this blue line, but when I look at it now, they really are kind of truly missing that kind of workhorse number 1 defenseman. And it'll be interesting to see the type of impact this makes. Currently, it hasn't seemed to affect them too negatively yet, but they lost to Pittsburgh last night.
Yeah. I'm going to sound super biased here, and I promise it's not the tone for the rest of the podcast here, but okay. I like every aspect of our team better than theirs. I like our forward group better than theirs. We are a little bit smaller up front, but I'd argue more skilled. Their defense is riddled with veterans with a lot of experience, but I think from top to bottom, I like our D-core much better. I feel like they're more mobile, really able to move the puck. Yeah, really able to move the puck and seem to have really good chemistry with the rest of the team. Now, this one's going to be a little tricky because I know Binnington just won gold at the Four Nations, but I trust Vejmelka more than I trust Binnington. Binnington, he seems to be pretty streaky. On the flip side for Binnington, he does show up for important games, and
Yes.
So he seems to have that killer instinct in him. That when the games get more and more impactful, he shows up. So I do like Vejmelka more, but I don't know if Vejmelka has that same killer instinct in important games. We haven't really seen a lot of important games for Vejmelka besides this season. So we'll see how it comes down, but I like our chances against St. Louis.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. I do think Binnington is kind of an X factor here because when he gets hot, he is kind of a force to be reckoned with. A couple other things to note statistically for them. Over the last 10 games, St. Louis are allowing the 23rd most goals against per game, averaging 2.8 goals against in those 10 games. Again, so in this ranking, number one would be allowing the most. So they allow the 9th least. The penalty kill, however, is not as hot with the 8th worst penalty kill over those last 10 games. So I think that's probably where you're kind of seeing that effect of maybe Periaco being out. It kind of is illustrative in a way that Binnington may be kind of playing lights out hockey right now to keep the GA per game played low, but that penalty kill is struggling a little bit, and that could definitely be something that Utah could potentially capitalize on. Over the course of the season, St. Louis is right smack in the middle for goals against per game played, 15th in the league overall, tied with Utah with 2.98 goals against per game played average. So this could be one of those situations where they start to return to the mean a little bit here. And like you pointed out, the goal differential is not so hot for them. So it'll be interesting to see if they may have just gone on a little hot streak here, but now they may start to feel the effects more of Periaco being out and kind of maybe returning a little bit more to the production we've seen all season rather than this kind of course of games they've recently played. On the offensive side here, they are 17th for goals for per game played, averaging 2.88 over the course of the season. But kind of like their penalty kill, the power play struggles. It's the 23rd ranked power play, only converting about 19.3% of the time. And then over the past 10 games, offensively, again, this may be a little bit of an outlier because they are ranked 6th for goals for per game, averaging 3.9. So over the last 10 games, I think we're seeing a team that is having a great offensive output, obviously, kind of hanging on to the back end and the defensive side of things. But, you know, in the law of averages, this is the 19th best power play over the last 10 games. What did I say? It was like the 20, I think we said the 8th worst over the course of the season. They're the 15th best for goals for, but right now are the 6th. To me, this is all indications that they may be going down a little bit. So, I may put them in the lowest chance to make the playoffs.
Agreed. Now, they don't take a lot of penalties. They are ranked 23rd out of 32 teams. We're up there pretty high.
Yeah, we are.
I'm looking at it. It's actually kind of funny. Calgary has the 4th most. Utah has the 5th most. And Vancouver has the 7th most. So you got to stay out of the box.
Yeah.
But I agree. I do think that St. Louis is probably the least of my worries out of those teams.
Yeah. And maybe that's good that they have the easiest strength of schedule because they may have the hardest road to actually get there as a team. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the Vancouver Canucks, who are tied with us in both games played and points this season.
No, they're two ahead of us.
2 ahead of us. I'm sorry. This is a team that's been kind of up and down all season. Lost a key player in JT Miller. Quinn Hughes has kind of been rushed back, for lack of better words. It seems like he's back in the lineup after being injured, and
played 30 minutes.
Like that may have. Did he really? Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, Tocchet sure likes to ride his superstars, and when he was the coach for the Arizona Coyotes, we saw him do this, which kind of broke down
Kemper
that season. Yep.
Yeah, I remember the game. We just acquired Taylor Hall, and things were looking up, and then Kemper got injured in a blowout game, and he was not being pulled. Yep. So anyway, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it does kind of seem like they rushed Quinn back, and there's been a lot of turmoil going on there, and I am not the biggest Tocchet fan, and it's not because I have a sour taste in my mouth. I know his coaching style, and I think it's a little. It doesn't adapt very well, I think. And I think really, I got to give him his flowers. He was coach of the year, but I don't know. I worry that he was kind of riding the success of all the superstars that he had on his roster last year. So, but that being said, there are superstars on that roster, and they scare me the most.
Yep. Yeah. Out of all the teams, this is definitely the team who has arguably the two best players out of the four teams kind of in the wild card race. Elias Pettersson, who has been a 100-point player in his career, and Quinn Hughes, who won Defenseman of the Year, the Norris Trophy last season. And both of these guys are complete game breakers. Elias Pettersson is definitely having a down season, but don't look now because he is heating up again after the trade deadline has passed. Maybe he was a little worried about being moved, but he is a Canuck, and he is pitching in right now to get this team dubs.
Yep. Yeah, they have a lot of firepower up front. Pius Suter's having I believe a career year. I mean, Jake DeBrusk, Brock Besser, Heedle's doing well. Garland's doing well. There's it's a pretty stacked team, I would say, as far as depth. They do have some superstars on the team, but their depth is probably what scares me a little bit. I would say the most. They have a good back end. They got Hronek, Hughes, obviously. Lankinen, I don't want to say anything bad about Lankinen because, I mean, he's earned what he's got. I mean, he just signed a deal very similar to Vejmelka. So I feel like if I say, hey, I don't trust Lankinen, I feel like I would also have to say that I have my worries about Vejmelka. So goalies are voodoo. We all know that. But overall, just due to the pure star power on this team, I think they are the toughest out for us.
Yeah, and again, that's why this game on Sunday is going to be so important, because a win here it's going to be a 4-point game, especially if it's done in regulation. So
it needs to
be. A couple stats here too. Vancouver over the course of the season is 27th for goals for per game played, averaging 2.73. Their power play is kind of in the middle of the road with the 16th ranked power play. Over the past 10 games, their offense has ranked 31st.
Wow.
For goals for per game, only averaging 2.11. The only team worse than them is, drumroll please, the Calgary Flames.
Whoa. Okay. So you just said that they're 26th for goals for over the entire season, and then over the last 10 games, they're 31st?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. I wouldn't have guessed that. I
know. But it's, without JT Miller, that was another 100-point player. It's a different looking team. And you mentioned the depth. I agree. This team was built for the playoffs after they made a big run last year, but it does lack firepower. I mean, Connor Garland, Jake DeBrusk, Brock Besser are kind of your top wingers outside of
Yeah.
I mean, though they are your top wingers. The potentially your best offensive piece is a defenseman with Quinn Hughes, with Elias Pettersson struggling. Obviously, Pettersson has that ability to be a game breaker. We've seen it before, but again, he's kind of having a down year. So I think it will take him to get red hot in order to get this goals for up. Now, this is a team that's been playing great defensively, though. At least it feels like it. They have the 4th best penalty kill in the league over the course of the season. The only teams better than them are the Rangers, Carolina, and Dallas. Over the course of the season, they rank 14th for goals against per game. Again, in this situation, the league leader in preventing goals is Winnipeg, who ranked 32nd with 2.34. Vancouver, again, 14th with 3.03. Over the last 10 games, however, I believe they are doing much better, as they are the 21st ranked for goals against per game. And they have the best penalty kill over the last 10 games.
Tocchet has always been a I mean, I think Arizona, when Tocchet was around, had one of the best penalty kills, and weirdly enough, the most offensive penalty kill. Like, I think we scored the most shorthanded goals. But so that's something to keep in mind. Their penalty kill is going to be up there high. And I didn't realize it. I said that Philip Heedle's doing well. He actually doesn't. I thought he was, but he doesn't really look like he's doing much in Vancouver at all. So their firepower might be a little bit less than I thought. I mean, you got Pettersson, who's again heating up, but other than that, I mean, there's a lot of depth pieces, and that could be dangerous, but you do need game changers. And I know Quinn Hughes, if Tocchet had his choice, he'd play him 60 minutes a night, but it's just not possible. So, but I don't know.
You want to play a quick game with Elias Pettersson?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you a player name, and you need to tell me if they have more or less points than Pettersson.
Okay, let me put away I want to do this the right way. I'm taking down my screen. Hands are up here.
Jake DeBrusk, more or less.
More points or goals?
Points.
I'm going to say yes, more points, because he's having a career year.
He has 2 less points than Elias Pettersson, but he has 23 goals.
I'm off to a hot start.
Quinn Hughes. More points than Pettersson.
Yeah. I would say he had more points, yeah.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. Okay. He has 61 points in 51 games played. He leads the Canucks. Okay. Here's a wild card.
Okay.
Connor Garland. Ex-Coyote. Garland.
I feel
more or less points.
I feel like he can't be over 40 points. I don't
feel you would be correct here.
Okay. Does Pettersson have less than 40 points right now? I don't know. I mean, the way you're saying it, I'm inclined to believe that Pettersson would have more points than Connor Garland, but the way you're setting it up, I'm thinking Connor Garland has more points than Pettersson.
You would be correct.
Well, how many points does he have?
He's played 6 more games than Pettersson, but Connor Garland has 16 goals and 39 points. Elias Pettersson is ranked 3rd on the team with 14 goals and 39 points. So think about this.
Wow.
The Canucks only have 1 player who has more than 40 points this season.
That is nuts. Okay. I'm starting to feel a little bit better about this. I didn't dig into them. It was more of like a 10,000 foot view of the Canucks, right? They scare me, but I am kind of starting to feel a little bit better about this.
Yeah, I am too. I'm starting to think that maybe some of these wins came early into the season before all the kind of JT Miller drama. It seems like that offense may be kind of slowing down here.
Hey,
I mean, when you think about it,
Garland.
No kidding, huh?
Way to be on a team with Pettersson and Hughes and be ranked 2nd in scoring. That's crazy. Good on you, man.
Yeah, it kind of pads the fact that we got Dylan Guenther for Garland and OEL a little bit more, but you know.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about the Vancouver Canucks you'd like to talk about?
No,
they have the hardest schedule on top of all this, right?
Yeah,
of all the teams. Yeah. Out of the wildcard teams.
Yep, they have the 9th hardest schedule in the league.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Nice.
then yeah. So I like this. Brad, you might have just convinced me that St. Louis scares me more than the Vancouver, but I don't know. I'm not really willing to go there yet, but I don't know. All right, let's talk about our last contender.
Okay, so the Calgary Flames currently hold that last wild card spot, and just to be clear, it looks very, very unlikely that the second wild card spot would be able to be overtaken by anybody.
No.
So this is really kind of one spot with 4 teams battling for it. The Calgary Flames, probably one of the most surprising teams all season. A lot of people thought they were going to be one of the worst teams. A lot of people thought they were going to be sellers throughout the season. Some of the big names may have been sold, but this kind of young group of players who are kind of coming up with their solid veterans are making a big impact. And then obviously they have a goalie phenom with Wolf, who is one of the leaders for the Calder, which is the Rookie of the Year trophy. He's been playing lights out as a goaltender, as a rookie, and has really kind of righted the ship for the Calgary Flames. Again, I think everybody is surprised that they're sitting here, but when you kind of peel back some of these layers, this was a team who was very, very competitive just a couple of short seasons ago when they had Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk on their team. This was a team pushing for a cup run rather than just trying to make the playoffs at that point. So a lot of those pieces are still together in the Kadris, the Backlunds, the Rasmus Andersons. And then they did trade Matthew Tkachuk in that kind of stunning trade to the Florida Panthers, the Ice Cats, if you will, and got Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar back, who are both very, very good players. And Huberdeau's kind of had some off season since the trade, but is definitely producing a bit better this season. Kind of thoughts on the Flames? Is this the one to be worried about, or?
Now that I'm digging into their roster a little bit, their depth might actually be more impressive than Vancouver's.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, Kadri again. This guy's a machine, man. He's about to break 50 points again. Probably finish the season with 60. Huberdeau, never really understood this trade for Calgary, giving away Tkachuk for Huberdeau. I mean, I definitely like Weegar, but he's not having a bad season. He's going to break 50 points, but you would like to see him score more. The numbers he put up in Florida, but these guys are all going to be like 50 to 60 point players. You've got the defense. You got Rasmus Anderson. He's a unit. Besides him and Weegar, though, it's a pretty young.
Yeah, it is. Probably overperforming a bit.
Yeah, like their back end. I don't want to say they're a bunch of names. They're not necessarily household names. If I could say that. Nicely, right? Yeah. So their back end might be an area of advantage. I was gonna say, with a rookie goaltender, that could also be an advantage. But again, goaltenders are voodoo, and this guy is playing insane. And it's not like this came out of nowhere. This guy was amazing in the AHL too. So it's I like their goaltending better than ours right now. Just due to the fact that they have 2 people that they can trust in the net, with Vladar and Wolf. But so their depth and their goaltending scare me. I think the advantage that we might have on them is defense. What do you think?
Well, our blue line, I would say, looks better, but
on
guess
paper,
what? Goals against per game. Calgary is allowing the 21st least amount of goals against all season long. So that means there are only 11 teams who allow less than them. They have the 26th ranked penalty kill, however. So 26 worse over the course of the season.
Okay. So I like that.
I think this is kind of a statement of how good Dustin Wolf has been. Over the last 10 games, they are allowing the fourth least amount of goals against with 2.22 average. And their penalty kill is the third best.
Whoa. Okay.
So major leap compared to their season-long average with the 26th ranked penalty kill to the third best over the last 10 games. So I don't know. That to me is a little bit of a scary sign, because if that PK starts to drop, you got to watch out a little bit here.
Yeah. And they do take the fourth most penalties in the league. So I don't necessarily know if that inflates the numbers one way or another. I mean, in order to be this competitive as you have been, if you're taking that many penalties, you hope you have a damn good penalty kill.
Yeah, no kidding.
But and it is kind of shocking to hear that. Because it's not all Dustin Wolf. The defense has to help out with the goals against. So, but I mean, a lot of that could be on Dustin Wolf. So it does scare me a little bit. The underlying numbers scare me. But let me ask you this, Brad. If and I know this wouldn't happen, but if we had like a best of 7 series, or let's make it fun, like a best of 5 series, Utah versus Calgary, what is your initial gut feeling telling you?
My gut says that with today's Utah roster, they would win.
That's kind of where I'm at too, which is weird.
Especially because Calgary has the worst offense in the league over the course of the season. 32nd in goals for per game. They have the 18th ranked penalty kill, and over the last 10 games, they still have the worst offense in the league and the 29th ranked power play. So this is a team who's dead last for goals for per game played, whose power play has gotten significantly worse over the last 10 games, dropping 10 spots. Right. And really, their penalty kills the thing that is improved in their goals against. So this is a team that seems that they have to win games by playing a very defensively sound game, and probably do not want to be in shootout races.
Yeah, so it shows per ESPN, Utah has a 23.7 power play percentage. Calgary has 21.4. Utah has an 80.3 PK percentage. Calgary has 74.9. So we have the edge on them in both places there. And I like our offense better. I do.
Me too.
I believe that we have contributors up and down this lineup. I mean, look at our third line lately. Our third line is incredible. Josh Doan is not, I'm sorry, Tucson, but you're not going to see that guy again. No. He with McBain and Krause, that is a playoff line. Yeah. Those guys, that is a dream team third line. My favorite third line we've ever had. And that's saying something, because we've had some fun ones. I don't know. I mean, I feel like with our depth and our heavy hitters up front, like Gunther and Keller and Cooley, I agree. I think I'd take Utah over them. So I told myself in the beginning, I set the tone. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be the tone. I'm not going to be biased the entire time. But as we talked this out, and I promise, guys, we talked a little bit before this podcast, and we said, Vancouver scares me the most. And I think, Brad, you might have said the same, or you said Calgary.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the scariest team down the stretch might be Utah.
I would have to agree now. Now that we've broken this down, Utah has the 5th best power play over the last 10 games, converting at a 33% rate. The 13th best offense over the last 10 games, averaging 3.2 goals for per game. And the defense has been pretty decent as well. So to me, as long as they can keep on playing this way, I think they have a great shot to sneak in and maybe take that last wild card spot. Again, that game on Sunday against the Vancouver Canucks may be the most important. We do not play the Flames. So there's not going to be a 4-point game against them. And the Flames have a slightly more difficult schedule than Utah. So
we do play the Flames April 1st.
Oh, we do. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that'll be another 4 points.
So we play each team one more time.
Yeah, it sure looks like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
all right.
So that'll be fun. So we got Canucks this Sunday. Then after that, we have the Flames on April 1st. And then we have the St. Louis Blues the last game of the season.
Holy cow.
So
those are must-win games.
Yeah.
Circle your calendars and now.
Seriously, those are going to be, we got to tune in for those. Man, that's crazy. So, can you imagine that? I was just thinking, can you imagine? You said the last 10 games, you rattle off how we have improved. That kind of lines up with the team being healthy. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if our D core was healthy to start the year? Like, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation.
I don't think we
wouldn't be scoreboard watching. I have a feeling we would just be like, hey, you know what? We're in. Let's just worry about, who else we're playing. So I gotta think the brass up top feels that way too. Just kind of put a nice little bow on it. I do think that this is just another key point and an indicator that we're gonna have a busy offseason. We can't get this close and it now showing how this team performs when it's healthy. We can't get this close and not do much in the summer. So it's going to be a fun ride, Brad. These next string of games are going to be super fun. It feels really good to be watching the scoreboard for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. Tankathon no more.
Yep. I think for the first time in a long time, I was really frustrated to not get 2 points against Chicago Blackhawks. And I have not felt like that in a bit. Usually it's like, hey, we got a point.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's the flip side where, God, we got a point. Like, we're supposed to be tanking here, but
it's gross.
It felt good to be frustrated with losing in overtime. But nail biters. So make sure to catch all these must-watch games. Go show your support. Go to those home games. Get loud. Anything else you want to say, Kenny? It's gonna be a fun ride.
Yeah, 2 quick things. One. Got a feel for Matias Michelli a little bit. This is going to be his 11th straight scratch, I believe. Might even be more. Don't really know what's going on there. A team's being really tight-lipped about it. I feel like it's something more than just performance. That's just my gut feeling. I have no inside information there. But keep an eye on that. I mean, eventually you'd feel like he's got to have to draw in sometime. But it is kind of nuts to see someone so promising last year be scratched for this many consecutive games. And then I don't know if you want to touch on that, but there was one more player I wanted to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just want to extend our thoughts and good energy to Connor Ingram. We know that he has had a rough year losing his mother this year. And there's a lot of people that will sit there and stat watch and pick apart somebody. But we forget that these players are humans and they have very real lives. And I know if I lost someone significant in my life, I wouldn't be the best at my job. I'd be living between my ears a lot. And I'm glad that he was brave enough to seek help and with the NHL Players Association assistance program. And we wish him nothing but the best. And I just love that the fans at the Delta Center last game had a little place where you can write a note to Connor Ingram. And I just think that is just so indicative of Utah and the people that we see, and salt of the earth people. No pun intended there. Salt of the earth people. We appreciate you all. And Connor, if you do see this, we hope nothing but the best for you. Heal up, buddy.
Yep, absolutely. Shout outs to Jackie J on Twitter for kind of organizing that event to collect cards at the home game. I believe they are potentially still allowing you to email your thoughts or a card over to Connor Ingram. And that email is letters to Ingy, ingy@gmail.com. So again, letters to ingy@gmail.com if you want to give him some positive messages and wish him the best. So yeah, we're thinking of you. We're hoping you're able to kind of get through this hard time, and we'll be rooting for you this entire way through. And we'll be rooting for the Utah Hockey Club, the Mammoth, if you will, the rest of this way. And yeah, make sure you're tuning in every night, because every single one's going to be extremely important. Final shout outs to Overtime Cards, our partners. Make sure you are following them at Overtime Cards UT on Twitter, just so you can stay up to date with all of their events. I'll be out there for that Sergachev event. Make sure you swing by if you already have your tickets. If you missed out, you definitely want to be following them so you can make sure you're at the next signing. And otherwise, you can find us at cleanhitshockey.com, shop.cleanhitshockey.com, discord.cleanhitshockey.com, or any of those socials that you can see right over there or right over there. I am Brad. This is Kenny. Buckle up. This is going to be a wild, wild ride. Adios.
Peace, later.
We know we're running it now. Watch the game change.